we are live so that Right, so welcome everyone to the grand finals of the 17th BDC Pre-Worlds 2020. My name is Wafi. I am one of the organizers from the Bangladesh Debating Council. We're extremely proud that the tournament has gone smoothly so far and extremely proud to have two of the best teams of the country debating in the grand finals. I'll be handing over the floor to the chair for the grand finals, who is Parinda Rahman from North South University.
Hello, everyone. Could someone please confirm if I'm audible?
Yep.
Welcome to the grand final of the 17th BDC Pre-Worlds 2020. I am Parinda Rahman from North South University, and I'll be the chair for the grand finals. With me, I have a panel. I would please like to request all the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Shudipto from the University of Dhaka.
My name is Amrit from the Australian National University.
My name is Ashit Dutta from Khulna University.
My name is Hasif Ahmed. I'm from Lawrence University.
Hi, I'm Jubayer Bin Ahmad. I'm from Stanford University.
Hi, this is Fardeen Ameen from IUB.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to congratulate both the teams for making it to the grand finals. And on side government, we have CCPC1. On side opposition, we have SD1. Before we move on to the debate, please, I'd like to request both the teams to write down their speaking order in the text channel. If you have preferred gender pronouns, please do mention it. My preferred gender pronouns are she or they. If the panel would like to mention their preferred gender pronouns, they're welcome to do so in the text channel. We would urge all of you to use gender neutral pronouns. And with that being said, please keep yourself muted at all times to ensure there is no undue interruptions. The motion for the grand final reads, assuming that a technology exists that can accurately measure and transfer intelligence, this House would radically redistribute intelligence among the population. Can we have the Prime Minister to begin the grand finals? Hear, hear.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, I will be starting in a few seconds. Okay, so three, two, one, go. Honorable Speaker, we believe that in a world where you are born with arbitrary talent or an arbitrary greater number of intelligence than any other average human being, we believe that you are unfairly advantaged by the lottery of birth. And we believe that the role that intelligence plays in an individual's life, the way it affects each and every sector possible of an individual's life, we believe that everyone should have the level playing field in this side. And we believe we ensure that so much in our world, and we are not unfair to any individual just based on their lottery of birth. So what is the principal justification of doing what we are doing? We believe that, as I've already said, you are in your lottery of birth are just born with a bit better, a greater number of intelligence than any other human being who are born with a less number of intelligence than you are. We believe that this is hugely unfair for individuals because they did not choice, they didn't have the choice to say that, okay, I want more intelligence or not. So what else do we do this like? We do this in case of taxation. When you say that your wealth or your rich is kind of arbitrary to your birth, when you have wealth, your family gave to you, you didn't account it. And so we believe that similarly, we take it from them and we redistribute it to the poorest part of the society so that people who are unfairly disadvantaged by that arbitrariness is benefited. Similarly, in our world, what we will do, we will take this intelligence from who are advantaged arbitrarily by part of lottery of birth and give it back to the people who are disenfranchised by this particular amount of lottery of birth. Why is that so? Because we live from the moment you get sense and people start to realize that you have a higher amount of intelligence than any other average human being, you are greatly valued, right? You are valued more than any other 10 people. You are valued more. You you get a better job, you reap better benefits, and all the money, all the success, all the glory, all the fame that comes with your higher amount of intelligence, we believe that is also arbitrary because it comes from it is responsible because the arbitrary factor of having more intelligence is what responsible behind it. So we believe that it's unfair for those individuals who aren't born with this amount of intelligence, higher amount of intelligence at the very first place, that they are deprived of this fame or this money or this glory. So it's really important that we give this particular intelligence back to them and ensure a level playing field. So understand why intelligence exclusively, why not other factors or other barriers that bars human life or creates barriers in our life. We believe there are two reasons to this. First of all, other factors or other barriers could be overcome or could be diminished in our world when you have a greater amount of intelligence. What do you mean by that? If, for example, if you are born in a poor family arbitrarily, then if you have a greater number of if you have a higher amount of intelligence, we believe you can actually cope up with that. How is that so? Maybe you can go to get a scholarship and go to a good university. Maybe you'll go have a good amount of job, you maybe have a better job, and then you can change your financial cycle at the very first place when you have this particular amount of intelligence to get a job at the very first place. But understand that intelligence is the barrier, which is low intelligence is a barrier that is put upon you, which you can never change in in the present status quo, because you can't go and buy intelligence, or you can make sure that you are born dumb and you suddenly become intelligent at the very first place. So when you don't have this particular tool through which you can overcome all other barriers, we believe that that is what is the exclusivity of intelligence at the very first place in today's debate, because we believe that with intelligence you can overcome all the barriers. But when you don't have intelligence, it is a barrier which is so much exclusive that even if you are born in the most richest, even if you are born in a condition that is privileged, still, and even privileged or not privileged, you can't cope up with the world, or you can actually reach up to the level of success, because that is what inherently prevents you from doing so. Secondly, and most importantly, we believe that in your world, the people with less intelligence, as I've already said, are devalued or humiliated. Why is that so? Because we think that these people are dependent on intelligent people at the very first place, and that is true, right? For example, when I have this particular problem, when I'm having problem, I have a problem that I need solution for, I look up to the intelligent scientist who could find out an invention and help me to solve this problem at the very first place. Meaning that my life, the problems that I face in my life is completely dependent on intelligent people out there. And I wish that, okay, some amount of intelligence people will one day notice my problems and actually solve this problem at the very first place. Meaning my life is completely dependent on other, or your destiny isn't actually dependent on you. It is dependent on some other intellectual people thinking you are worth of investing their intelligence at the very first place. So what do we mean by that? Is that it means that the success you get in your life is essentially that even if you don't mostly get the success you deserve. Also, you don't mostly solve your problem, but even if you solve the problem, you live through the guilt throughout your entire life that someone else give you as a charity this particular solution which is helping your life, and which we believe inherently devalues the people who are arbitrarily born with less intelligence. Yes, PY.
Okay, so is your end goal creating a equal world?
People are just codependent other human beings for their survival. It's just the intrinsic nature of the society itself, and that's how human beings function. Why is that morally and principally wrong?
Okay, I don't know which PY to answer, but I'm trying to answer. Anyway, first, how our world is equitable, and how, I think that also secondly answers their question in how people are actually valued, right? So first of all, understand how we ensure how our world is better off, right? Understand we ensure a level playing field in our world, meaning people right now knows that the only thing that matters in success is nothing but hard work and effort and having the sheer dedication of doing that particular thing. So how is our world equitable? Because right now, even if when we say that with intelligence you can overcome all the other barriers that are put upon you, and we say that okay, and you know that in our world, when you know that other people are also equally as intelligent as you, that means that you have a level playing field. And you know the only thing that will distinct successful people and the non-successful people will be how much effort they put in. The more effort you put in, the more hard work you put in, is the amount of success of you the amount of the possibility of you being successful is greater. That meaning that hard work is a choice that you can do, right? Everyone can do if they want to do hard work or effort. And we believe that in our world, success of an individual depends on their choice of doing hard work or not doing so. But in your world, it depends on if these individuals are born with intelligence or less intelligence at the very first place. So in our world, first of all, we create this level playing field. We judge people not on knowledge. We judge people on how much effort, not on intelligence. We judge people on how much effort they have given, how much hard work they've given, and how much they have gained by this hard work. Because we know that everyone has the equal amount of intelligence at the very first place. We don't say that, oh my God, this is a God-gifted talent. We see that, oh yes, he was equally gifted as just any other random kid, but still he is being celebrated. How is that important? Because we believe that two things happen. Firstly, we start valuing all other professions, meaning that we value a farmer as much as we value a corporate, because we know that presently we have this idea that, oh my God, a corporate is intellectually higher, that was we should value a corporate more, but a farmer is just doing physical business with no intellectual business at the very first place, and so we should devalue him. And so we ensure a level playing field, make sure no matter what work you do, you are valued equally, because people know that you have the equal capability. But secondly, and most importantly, we believe people can solve their own problem by themselves, meaning that when you are a farmer, if you want to be a farmer, you can use your own IQ. You do not to depend, because you know that there is no one out there else who can maybe help you better. But you know that yes, if I try my best, I can solve my own problem. Maybe I can create a huge technology which will solve my problem of not having a cattle in the very first place, or any other problem. It is every individual. We believe that there are so many disenfranchised individuals around the world who don't get the attention they need from the intellectual people at the very first place. These intellectual people will go and credit them. But in our world, we believe individuals have the chance to solve the problem by their own capability and effort. And what it in terms means that also having more IQ means that you are more aware of your rights, and you are more aware of what to do and what not to do, meaning that you are more willing to do that. So for all this reason, we are very proud to propose a solution which will make a more equitable world, a better world, and the level playing field for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Can we have the leader of the opposition to continue the opposition?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible to me.
Can I get like 10 seconds to organize everything? And if at any point I become inaudible, please let me know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. See, what you must realize is that this debate is not a preference motion, it is a policy motion. What does this exactly mean for the debate is that it means that the process in which the entire IQ radicalization, the redistribution will happen is that overnight people will be assigned with a different IQ and by extension a different lens through which they process information. As such, there is no scope for these individuals to adjust to the policy and their newfound IQ. Keeping that in mind, let's first tackle the rebuttals that we have for side opposition. for side proposition. See, if they are claiming that our world is arbitrary, that's not exclusive. They cannot claim that they are being fair by imposing more arbitrary policies that individuals have not consented to. If they believe having higher IQ means that people have more value, then they're directly saying that they're okay with people feeling less valuable when their IQ is degraded. Because higher IQ people need to settle with lower IQ people. Moving on, even in our worst case, we have disparity, but we have created a world where people have the access to curate their life from the very beginning with the knowledge of having certain IQ. On the contrary, government impose a random average IQ without any consent, and that too consciously, and we believe that is not desirable at all. Furthermore, they say people need to they said they will create an equal world, but at cost of snatching away people's autonomy, and that they never bought the trade-off and never showed us why that is a trade-off we need to buy either. And that does it for the rebuttals from side opposition. Now moving on to the constructives of this case. What are the burdens in this debate? We have two burdens, which are principally to prove why this entire policy of redistributing IQ is principally unjustified, and two, why there are negative consequences on individuals via the redistribution of IQ. The first argument is the principal argument, and this has two layers. Hello.
You are audible.
Hello.
We can hear you just fine.
Hello. Zoom is showing. My Zoom is crashing, so please wait for can I get like a minute? I can't see anything.
Yeah,
Yes,
no worries. Chill. Naira, can you pause the timer?
Hello. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Can someone please just tell me what was the last thing they heard?
The last thing you talked about was about the principles. The timer was paused at 2:41.
Okay, thank you. Okay, as I was saying, our first argument is the principal argument, which is to say, why is this principle immoral? We have two layers for this. The premise for the first layer is that success does not inherently just depend on IQ. It also depends on hard work. One needs to put hard work in order to utilize their high level of intelligence, and that hard work is how in the end they are able to to reach the height that they are able to, right? Because no, just having IQ is not worth it if you don't put work behind it. Now, when you take away their IQ, you are making sure that this person can no longer do the things that he previously used to do. As such, you are basically making all the hard work he has put into this life up till this point in time moot. How does this happen, and why is this principle justified? Since this hard work has been with them for so long, over like a period of 30 years and 40 years depending on people, this has become a part of their identity and has become an extension of themselves, that they work hard and that they use the IQ gifted to them. Now you are robbing them of this IQ, which they have honed with years of hard work and experience. And we believe that you have no right to just rob these people of an extension of themselves in this way. For my second layer of for this principal argument, the premise is IQ builds personality. Why is this true? See, people with different IQ see the world in different ways. A person with a high IQ will perceive everything in utilitarian terms, and will think along the lines of science, best, like perfection, etc., because those things make sense to him in his current worldview, supported by his high IQ. Moreover, IQ dictates how you deal with problems, which is to say, a person with a relatively high IQ and who has utilized that is more adept at solving complex problems. Why is this problematic? Because when you take away people's IQs overnight, you are making sure the way they lead life becomes you are making sure that they can no longer lead life the way they used to. Why is this problematic? Because see, people's habits, customs, behavior, whatever you call it, is how he defends himself against society, how he builds his own person in the vast majority of this world. And you are making sure that the way they lead life and the person who they are is now gone, and as such they are no longer the person they used to be, and now they are a vulnerable person, and you have no right to do that. On the flip side, if you are forcing more IQ on someone was born with less IQ, you're forcing them to view this world through a much more advanced lens. And perceive things which he could never perceive before, and this is most likely to overwhelm him. You have exposed him to a wider angle, but the problem now becomes that over his 30 years of life, he was never taught how to deal with this new wide angle, which has become clear to him. As such, what you're doing is just making him realize that there are problems, but he doesn't know how to deal with them. And as such, we believe this is a form of assault, since you are actively hurting this individual's ability to make rational choices. So the conclusion of this is that this is principally unfair. Even in a world where everyone has the same IQ, everyone needs to feel the brunt of the sudden shift in the IQ in the entire IQ redistribution process. It's not a competition about I have more IQ, I have less IQ, but rather situations in which these people used to be before the redistribution stay the same, and redistribution stay the same, and that the pressure they used to have and the pressure that they have to deal with the dawning of this new process with the new IQ, which actively dictates how they process information, will still remain, and they still have to cope with it, and that pressure will remain with them as long as they live. And so we are proud to oppose this counterproductive policy. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. Can we have the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the government case?
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right, thanks. So,
Rahib, do you have a fan on behind you or something? Hello?
I guess
Is it all right now?
Yeah, it's much better. Thank you.
All right. So can I start?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
All right, so starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Understand that why opposition has failed to even get inside the debate, right? All of their arguments and questions is contingent upon the simple fact that how we make the process true. And like all of the question is based upon a single question of model and like model, right? So we believe that is not the most important part of the debate. And the most important part of the debate is the principles and whether or not we should do it or not. Understand, just because the motion has the would word attached to it doesn't mean that it's a policy motion. And even if they believe it, we'll show you that how even under our world, even at their best case that we overnight change everything, still people can adjust and people can adjust eventually and everything will be better than the status quo. Firstly, few responses, right? They come up and give us only argument like an argument of like why it's principally immoral, right? They talk about how like success doesn't depend on IQ and it depends on hard work. Therefore, taking away someone's hard work means that like their life will be destroyed and whatnot. We are robbing him of whatever he has worked for. Understand. First point is that whenever they agree that we also agree that success doesn't depend on only IQ, and it also like success doesn't mean that success also depends on hard work. That is the reason why we are taking away the arbitrary factor, which is IQ, and giving everyone the level playing field, which is the hard work, right? We believe that when everyone is judged upon hard work, that is the moment when we are like most fair. And when they're bringing out a point of who has a higher IQ and their IQ will be reduced, understand that whatever he has achieved, like the degrees or let's say the money he has achieved, we are not taking away those, right? So that's not unfair to him. The unfair bit, which is that unfair bit is like IQ, right? Because he got it like arbitrarily and he has no choice in getting it. So like if he didn't have any choice while accepting it, he shouldn't have any problem or he shouldn't have any choice while we take it away. So it's not unfair from that perspective. Secondly, they come up and tell us that IQ creates personality, therefore like who they are will be gone. Firstly, understand IQ doesn't like constitute who they are. Their memories and their memories and knowledges make who they are. IQ is a simple thing that their process of thinking will be enhanced. They're like the process they think in, their thinking capacity will be increased and whatnot. It's not like they will forget who they are or where he lives and whatnot. So we believe that taking away their IQ will change them permanently. It's wrong. And even if even in their best case, understand that if they feel dumb and whatnot, we believe that's not unfair, because the people that we cater to under our world, the most vulnerable people, they feel like this all of their life. We believe that that's fundamentally unfair, and that's more unfair in this debate. Next, they come up and tell us that we are forcing the IQ to the people who have lower IQ. Firstly, they come up and tell us the harm, like we don't understand why why anyone would not want to take IQ, right? That's not intuitive, and they needed to prove that. Secondly, they tell us they give us a harm under that layer, that is they can't adjust to the higher IQ and whatnot. Their eyesight will be widened and whatnot. Understand that that will not happen. Just because you become more intelligent overnight at their best case, become more intelligent doesn't mean that you will get headaches and whatnot. You will be pressurized. It will be more more good for you, because every single problems you face, every single problems you face in your life will be dealt much better. You'll be able to answer them much better. But let's take them at the best case and assume that they will feel humongous amount of pressure. But understand that just because we gave it to at their best case, we gave it to their overnight, doesn't mean that they have to adjust to it overnight. they can take time, and we believe that in some time they will adjust to it and they will become stable within that IQ. So their points eventually doesn't stand in our house, right? What we show you is that we firstly show you that our principal arguments were, we showed you that how it is arbitrary and it's not fair to give people it's not fair that some people get more IQ and make money and make their lives better capitalizing on it, and some people suffer because they arbitrarily didn't get it. Secondly, Abid shows you that how it's their fundamental right to get what they deserve based on their hard work, right? We believe that we level the playing field by giving them the equal ground, which is the hard work, and taking away the arbitrary field. Now I'll show you that how in consequence it will make their lives better. Understand that when at their best case they might have come up with things like how scientific inventions will not be that much advanced and whatnot. We'll deal with that in our constructives. Understand the preemptive is that even firstly, just because your IQ is less doesn't mean that scientific inventions will eventually be totally non-existent, right? Understand that how under our world it's still possible. It might take more time, it might take more people to create a single invention, but we are ready to take that trade-off, because understand that the IQ that those people had is was extra, because the people those suffer the most. You don't need to create super high-speed cars when some poor kids and poor people in Africa and Asia are not getting food because they can't do anything, because even if they do hard work, because of the higher IQs of people, they are always treated as dumb. So we believe that we are ready to take that trade-off, and at our best case we still have scientific inventions. Secondly, understand that how representation and societal problems they might have came up with that even if we level the playing field of IQ, the other factors are not changed. Understand that we show you the process and mechanize through how these things actually change, right? We show you that how those people firstly don't have awareness and things, right? Understand that when they have a higher amount of intelligence, they have a higher chances of getting self-actualization and getting self-aware, right? What are their rights? What should they get and what they are not getting? They are more aware of this. What it implies is they will be more aware of their rights. Therefore, they are more likely to be speaking up against the society and against the people they are not giving their rights. So, which means under our world, it's much more likely that they are more aware of their current situation. Secondly, if they have higher amount of intelligence, it's more likely that they will be taking more strategic decisions while fighting the oppressors and whatnot. Understand that while these people have lower IQ, they even if they go to a particular revolution or let's say protest and whatnot, understand that in those kind of scenarios they are more under the current scenario, as they have lower IQ, understand that why they are more likely to be taking unstrategic decisions and whatnot. Understand that when they have higher IQ, their decisions and the policies they make will be better. And even at the worst case from our side, they can at least analyze which person to give votes, which person will ensure their rights better and whatnot. We will, because of all these reasons, their representation will be better. They might come up and say that okay, my time is up. So because of all these reasons, because of the principal reasons and the consequences of increasing their IQs, we believe CCPC 1 takes the debate home. Yeah.
Thank you for that speech. Can we have the Deputy Leader of Opposition?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, starting in a bit. Starting in, wait a second. Yeah. starting in 3, 2, 1. This is a policy motion, and they needed to tell us how, in their side of the world, people would readjust to this new form of life. But we will take them in their best and tell us and tell you, even if people do adjust, why that it still be a bad outcome at the end of the day. Rebuttals first, then I'll move on to the constructives, where I will also tell you principally, even if things do work out, why they're still principally unjust. So firstly, rebuttals. They say that people with low IQ are less valuable. 3 responses. Firstly, intelligence doesn't define your value. People are valuable by virtue of being born, by virtue of being human beings. That is to say that your value doesn't depend on your IQ, so I don't know what that means. Secondly, people with lower IQ can be less popular. Yes, that is true, but I don't know why we should make everyone equally popular. What's the moral value in that? There's no explanation to that as well. Thirdly, even in the best case scenario, even if you do assume that IQ does define your worth, I don't know what authority the state has to take away someone's worth. That is to say, like if something gives me worth, you cannot literally take that away from me. If rights give me worth, the state cannot take away rights from me, right? That is to say, just because the state wants an equal worth doesn't mean the state has the capability or the right to take away certain things that make me more valuable. They have to defend that as well. Then they say that they want to make the world an equal place and want to judge everyone by the effort. They literally don't reach their end goal. Why not? Because the assumption in that was, and understand, don't lecture me on this again. This is a policy motion. This is a good debate. That means this would happen overnight where you click a button and everyone's IQ becomes the same. That means that this distribution of IQ happens literally overnight. I don't know how poverty is solved overnight. I don't know how geography or sex or all those things that make everyone unequal are disappeared. That is to say, even if you do want to judge everyone by their effort or by their hard work, you can literally not do that because you're just equaling one thing that makes people unequal. But moreover, everything in the world is not about IQ. A lot of jobs do not require hard work; they require a lot of effort, and we think that all those things also exist in our side of the world. Then they say that you couldn't consent to have a high IQ. You shouldn't also have to you should not also have a consent to give it away as well. Understand? I did not choose to be born with a hand. Does that give the state a right to come one day and chop off my hand? Literally no, because that is something that was inherent within me, that is a part of me, and state has no right to take that away from me. I own that piece of thing, and I did not consent for that to be taken away. State has no right. Then they say that people will be able to solve their own problem. We will make lives better. The example for this was, okay, now farmers don't need to rely on certain individuals. Farmers don't need to rely on certain individuals. They can solve the problems on their own. For you to solve things, you need not only IQ, but you also need information. I don't know how people have access to information in their world. That means farmers not only need IQ, they also need information about botany. They also need information about plant science. Those farmers literally don't have that. I don't know what that marginal increase in IQ is literally going to do. Literally no explanation of that. Then they say that people will vote more rationally. Doesn't happen. Why? Because 95% of people have an IQ of around 100, and that lies between 85 and 150. That is to say that outcomes in both the worlds, when it comes to vast majority of the people, really do not change because vast majority of the people have average IQ. What changes is that the people with the lowest IQ go into the average, then the people with the highest IQ come into average. We don't think that outcomes in elections are going to change in your side of the world. Now let's move on to my constructives. Why are intelligent people required? Intelligent people are very essential to our civilization. Much of the progress or the biggest inventions that have happened are because of the ultra geniuses. People like Einstein, people like Franklin Benjamin, people like Newton, people like Marie Curie. They are the ones who have made landmark inventions and made our civilization progress. The entire world, and this is to be noted, the entire world benefited from their inventions, and not only just certain individuals, not only the upper class, not only the middle class, but also the lower class. All classes of the society benefited from their inventions. You need high IQ to solve complex problems. How do you know that? You know that because the breakthrough problems were solved by only a minority of the people, and those minority of people are proven to have a very high IQ. So you cannot say that, oh, we will have slow rate of scientific progress. You need to give us reasons why that will happen, because much of the scientific progress has happened because of intelligent people. But more importantly, the obvious inventions, the obvious discoveries have already been made by human beings in the first place. Now we are moving to the next stage of evolution. We're moving to the more complex stages of economic of scientific problems. And as a result, for us to solve those problems, we need people with high IQ, people who can operate people who can operate supercomputers, and people who understand what a black hole works like, or what a black hole, the functionalities of those things are. We think that for you to do those things, you need high IQ. But most importantly, let's take side government in their best, where people will adjust everything overnight. Even then, why is that principle unjustified? This is a principle of argumentation. Let's take government their best and assume that utility is maximized in their side of the world. It is still immoral because people don't choose to give away their IQ. Why is choice important? Choice is important because of two reasons. Firstly, choice is what essentially gives value to human beings. Our ability to choose and our ability to choose and choose rationally is what makes us much more valuable. For example, the essential reason why a living human being is more valuable than a dead one is because one can choose, the other can. Biology is the same. They're both biologically the same thing, but one is more valuable than the other because one can make choices. Secondly, choices are personal and relate to your happiness. All other rights stem from your choices. Choice to live or choice to feel secure essentially means that these things trickle down to rights being formed. If you care about human rights, you also have to care about human choices, because those are things that are a priori to human rights, right? That is to say, choice is something that is precious. That is a choice to be protected. And in question come to this particular analysis would be, utility can never be the moral distinguishing factor. If utility was the moral distinguishing factor, you should not object to slavery, because that would have utility outcomes for the economy of America. That is to say that the entire economy of America would have benefited from certain people's choices being infringed upon, certain people's liberty being infringed upon. If you do not support slavery, you cannot also give the ballot to side government in this debate, because they also infringe upon certain people's choices. Secondly, what did my leader of opposition tell you? That is completely ignored. First, he told you how IQ determines who you are, and it determines how you behave or how you cope with certain things. That is to say, if you are someone with high IQ, you approach everything more cautiously. You calculate things more and more. If you're something with low IQ, you don't decide everything cautiously. You are more likely to jump into conclusions. They literally ignored this piece of analysis. If you ignore this piece of analysis, your case literally doesn't have any value, because you ignore the value or ignore the factor that IQ plays in the first place. You have to engage with this piece of analysis. That is to say, it does make sure that certain individuals are different, certain personalities are different. What is the harm in their side of the world? People with high IQs will now have average IQs. What's the problem? Because these people with high IQ often scrutinize things much more than normal people do. But when you take away the IQ, their behavior, their habit of scrutinizing everything still remains, but they don't have the capability or the means of doing so. They are obviously left vulnerable. But moreover, if you're someone with lower IQ, that also means that you are experiencing something much more newer. You, for the 40 or 50 years of your life, have lived or have seen the world in a way. But now, when you are 40, government one day pushed a button, and now you're seeing the entire world in a different way. You're a child, you have certain piece of information and memory, but you don't know what to gain out of that memory. You don't know how to process that memory. But secondly, my Elo also told you how it robs of people's success. There's literally no engagement to anything from their side. We told you how it is principally unjustified, even if I take them at their best. I told you why very intelligent people are required. We are very proud to take the debate by a very big margin, very proud to oppose.
Thank you for that speech. Can we have the government whip to end the government case?
Right, I'm just going to take 1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're
My internet
audible.
connection is like a bit choppy, so I'm just going to shift devices, right? 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I hope I'm audible. If there's any POI, just raise the POI on the text channel. Okay, so starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. They say state has no authority to take my tax. Understand this. My IQ is something that is absolutely arbitrary. I do not own that IQ because I didn't earn that IQ in the first place. Understand this. The fact that I didn't choose this IQ, and the fact that this IQ was divided arbitrarily says that itself it is arbitrary, then I didn't earn for this thing. So something that you didn't earn means that it is not yours, and the state can equally distribute itself. Secondly, they say that the state has no authority. The state already takes your hard-earned tax money, takes it away from you, and like it redistributed them. Because in the vast majority of instances, the way you earned that money is perhaps by living in a privileged sector and stuff like that. Secondly, they come and tell me, oh, I have no consent of my hand. Understand this, that more people that this is something, having a hand is something that most people have, right? Most people IQ is so arbitrary that it is so divided amongst individuals other than this, because most people absolutely have hands, and if we don't have hands, modern technology, we can replace it with different kinds of prosthetics in the first place. This is not a proper analogy. But secondly, they come up and tell me that, oh, people will have no information, poverty, we will not solve poverty overnight. Here is the problem, right? We're not telling that you can solve everything overnight, but if you do this now, at least we stay better than our world. How is that so? We tell you that understand the fact that already farmers are paid less. Why is that so? Because we think that their job requires no kind, probably their job requires no kind of mental strength and stuff like that, and they have less IQ, that's why they couldn't get into science. The moment in which you have an equal level, perhaps they have, like, a farmer cannot be more beneficial, and perhaps a farmer will have the same intelligence, and they cannot question them that you have the lowest IQ, that's why you should be paid less, right? Understand this, that the moment in which a farmer has an equal wage as an accountant, he has more rights, he gets more access to information. And in the present age of technology, it is a wonderful question that how will you get people access to it. But secondly, the moment you have the moment you have same wage, that means essentially you have more political capital. That means the people that arbitrarily used to dominate you, saying that you had less IQ, now essentially make sure that you will vouch more for your rights. The moment in which you, like, a vast majority of instances where funding doesn't reach to the poor areas of farmers is because they don't earn that much. When they are economically more valuable, that means funding will reach to them. They will get access to better structural reforms. On our side of the world, poverty is solved. Even if it takes time, it is solved. It is at least better than on their side of the house. Then they say, oh, they protect the vulnerable who have very high IQ. They protect the vulnerable. They say that the people who have very high IQ are the vulnerable. Let me do a simple thought experiment, right? For example, I worked my ass out for like 6 weeks before pre-worlds, watching WSDC videos every fucking day. But Abid Bhai worked 2 days ago, but who has a lot of IQ than me. But I am a person with relatively low IQ. So I worked for 6 weeks. Abid Bhai worked for 2 hours. He got the OBS. I didn't. Understand the amount of sheer mental trauma that I will have to be in, only because I have less IQ, only because I couldn't, only because Abid Bhai has more IQ that he chose to board, that he didn't choose, and I didn't. If I was given the chance to choose, if I had more IQ, I would have been I would have been better than Abid Bhai, right? Because this is something that I don't have control of. Let me do another thought experiment within the experiment. You are in a debate, and you work your ass off in the debate, but a bad judge comes and like tells that you didn't win the debate, like, and gives a very bad judgment, right? And the second instance is where you do bad and you lose the debate. In both instances, you lose the debate, but in one, you have a control over that thing, but in the other, you don't have a control over that thing. Understand the both scenarios, right? The one you didn't have the control over, you are more likely to feel vulnerable because this, like, IQ is a thing that I don't have a control of. Like, the judge did a bad judgment. I didn't give a bad speech. I gave a really good speech. This is the comparative that exists on our side of the world, because essentially we mean that more people that essentially you mean that more people will be under unhappiness, right? Because on our side of the house, people people are more vulnerable, and these people are the most vulnerable people who have less IQ, who even if they work their ass off, they spend hundreds of thousands of weeks a week working for their goal, they cannot get to their goal. Easy as fuck. Secondly, just because you did something doesn't necessarily mean that you deserve it, right? Abid Bhai doesn't deserve that job. He has more IQ than me. He didn't choose to have more IQ than me, right? Understand this, that success should be determined upon hard work, upon knowledge, upon like dedication, things that you have control of. Understand, like, on our side of the world, people who love that act, the fact that my love for debating has ensured that I have reached this state, right? Understand this, that on our side of the on our side of the world, people essentially do not deserve something, that even if you have like more IQ and do really wonderful jobs after that, doesn't necessarily mean that you deserve that IQ, right? Here on our side of the world, success and the rate at which you change things is determined upon sheer dedication, upon sheer hard work, upon the factors that you have control over. Why do we win this debate? We win this debate on a principle layer. They come and tell me, oh, this is a policy debate, you cannot like change stuff. And I tell you that efficiently we change stuff. And they come up and tell me, oh, scientific progressions will not happen. We think that comparatively, even if like, did people not live back like 100 years ago when there was no science? Essentially, when you create this arbitrary value, you create the unhappiness among people. When I see 2% people moving forward, the 98% feel unhappy. You play the number game, right? Understand this, that 98% of people and like 2% of people that have like existentially more IQ, that have done all the precious development out there. The moment in which I see that I have the same IQ as Einstein, it gives me an incentive that I can move forward. It gives me an incentive that it is dependent upon hard work. Understand this, that only vulnerable people, that on our side of the world, technological inventions are more likely to get out, because essentially people's dedication to work increase. People are not delivered, or people are not barred by this glass ceiling that, oh my God, if I don't get out, that even if I try so much hard, I cannot get out there, right? Understand, like, we are from Chittagong, like we didn't have any kind of tournaments out there, right? So if we believe that this online tournament gave us the support that broke us the glass ceiling of attending tournaments, right? Understand this, technology affects only a small number of people, and on our side of the world, you break the glass ceiling, you increase the dedication of people, and existentially you make sure that progress is happening. Even if progress doesn't happen, we still win this debate, because understand the sheer number at which you protect people, right? Understand on our side of the world, you keep 98% of people happy. Understand on our side of the world, 98% of people are happier. We would rather make sure that all farmers of the planet, or all lower IQ people of the planet, live with some level of happiness, live with some level of live to cut up and get into their dreams. On the other side of the world, they are only talking about technological developments. So proud to propose.
Thank you for that speech. Can we have the opposition whip to close the constructive round of the debate?
Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
My Zoom lags quite a bit, so I'm just going to say a long line so that you can long sentence so that you can say whether it's like dropping off or not. Assuming that a tech exists that can accurately measure and transfer intelligence, this helps.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. Okay, fine. Okay. Okay. Starting in Starting in 3, 2, One, I'll be doing two things in my speech. First of all, I'm going to clarify it to you why this was the clearest debate finals in pre-world's history to this date. Second of all, I'll be telling you why principles can cost you debate if you really don't engage to it and don't recognize it to begin with, right? So understand, moving on. A lot of the arguments that they came up with depends on two core assumptions. One is in the absence of disparities within IQ, in a world where there are equal IQ among all sorts of people, there are literally no other metric that can influence the ratio of your success. We don't take that premise into account because we believe that things like nepotism, things like social context and social background, your socio-economical background, the territory that you have been born into, also not only those things, the sheer idea of luck can literally influence each and every activity that you are somehow affiliated to in the world, even in the government side, right? So understand there are large chunk of arguments regarding how they create a level playing field, how they make people feel more equitable don't exist, because that farmer does not get judged because he has less IQ. Probably he has more IQ. The farmer gets simply judged because the other people think that, oh my God, this is a farmer, this is a poor person, he lives in village, he does not come from a very privileged social background to begin with. Understand that is something that they will never be able to overcome. This has been repeatedly told by Al-Wasis, but still we did not get any kind of engagement to that particular premise to begin with. But second of all, they said that, you know what, poverty is also going to get better without showing any mechanism as to how, by literally imposing a certain average IQ, you are going to solve poverty overnight to begin with, right? But moving on, they come up and talk about, you know what, we are going to take away IQ because it is an arbitrary factor. My Elo has already told to you, just because something was arbitrary, that the government side cannot claim that they are being fair by imposing more arbitrary policies that individuals have not consented to. There are more dynamics into this clash. Understand, the moment in time you are in our world, you are ascribed with a particular IQ at the time of your birth, right? All the people, irrespective of where they come from, are ascribed an IQ at the time of the birth. In comparison to the given policy where you are given an IQ by the time you are probably an adult, by the time you have a right to fundamentally access the choice of making a decision on your own to make sure what sort of changes go through in your life and whatnot, right? So understand these things. Under their world, you are principally contradicting with the sole idea of giving human beings the right to have a choice on what they want to do with their given talents, they want to do with their arbitrarily imposed knowledge and whatnot. And on our side of the world, where by just sheer system of how the nature works, you assign a child a particular IQ in birth, right? So this dynamics is really important, and this is where our principle comes up with, which have not been contested at all. Al-Wasi comes up to you and talks about how human dignity is premised on autonomy, how value of the choices and the decisions and the things that happen in your life is premised on autonomy to begin with. Restricting on that choice is literally a direct attack on humanity, right? The groundwork of this principle was done by my Elo, where he said that this decision is exactly equivalent to assault, because you're force a person to adjust to another level of IQ which he has not been accustomed to for a lot of the time, right? But it's not only about whether he's accustomed to that or not, right? It's more than that, because understand, IQ is an integral part of human identity. It's an extension of you, right? So it's an integral part of your identity. It's an extension of you. That means that even if you have good outcomes, by reducing our ability to make choices that directly affects our extension of human identity, at that very point in time, it becomes principally abhorrent to begin with. Al-Wasi gives you excellent example and principle parallel to how slave contracts work and how we don't want say okay with slave contracts even if it becomes good outcome, even if it brings good outcomes to begin with, right? So understand this principle still stands, which vastly win us the debate to begin with. But moreover, they said that their world is better by the same old farmer analogy to begin with. They never said how they're going to improve the other metrics that are in play that, in regards to the success of people in the world to begin with, right? But moreover, they come up and talk about how scientific inventions will still be possible and whatnot, and they still be possible at a slower rate. Even if it's not possible, they're willing to buy that trade-off. The reason they wanted to buy that trade-off, and I exactly quote them, is because they don't want supercars. We're just not talking about as relevant things like supercars. We're literally talking about life-saving medicines, healthcare, and all other technologies that is literally on the basis of the requirements of human civilization to exist to begin with, right? Understand that taking time, like and second of all, even if we need to contest to the point that this might take time, but still things will come out to output, right? We think that will be too late for things that are required urgently on the basis of on the basis of human civilization to survive, just like I told you so. But understand that taking time also put the constant growth of civilization at halt. They never said to us why they're willing to make such a big concession on the parts of all the development that have been done by human civilization for literally tens of thousands of years, no engagement to that. But second of all, they come up and talk about something very ridiculous to begin with. They come up and talk about how in social movements and protests, people have lower IQ, that's why they cannot oppose dictatorship and other authoritarian figures, right? And so this is a bloody generalized claim to make that the people who are involved in social protests and social activists are all belonging from a lower IQ of lower IQ strata. We don't have any reason to believe so, because literally people within these social movements who have the higher IQ level have made this movement successful, which is why we see the feminist movement, the Black Lives Movement thriving, right? Understand the moment in time you make all the change the scenario into them, that's where the social movements and the change in the society is more harmed, because the authoritarian government or the dictator will still have some power on the basis of his money and whatnot, and the mere hard work will not win any points for the social protesters, because in our world, in a comparison, these were the IQ, the strategic decisions they needed to make. In these strategic decisions, hard work is not as big of a deal as they're trying to portray as, right? But even in our worst case scenario, even if we want to coincide with the fact that people will probably be better off with having a lower IQ. I still don't understand why I will be willing to buy that outcome, given that it's a direct assault on their human identity, which is principally abhorrent to begin with, right? Understand, adjustment problems are not as simple as they begin with. We can't risk 40 years of lives of a person who has literally based his entire life, personality, and lifestyle on the basis of a certain assigned IQ, and suddenly tell that person that your life is upside down right now. Start from the very beginning. We cannot make human go through that. Furthermore, we cannot make human go through the assault on their dignity to begin with. Very, very proud to win.
Thank you for that speech. We'll now begin with the reply speeches. If the opposition reply speaker is ready, you can start.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Just starting in a bit. Starting in 3, 2, 1. This is where SAT government went wrong. They framed the debate wrong. If they framed the debate different and said that they would make the world marginally a better place, their arguments would have made much more sense. But what they instead said, they are going to overnight make everything fair, and they're going to overnight change the world and judge everyone by by hard work and by effort only. We told you how that, and that opened up the scope for us to attack and say that there are other discriminating factors which would make sure that you can't only judge people by hard work, there are other things. But what if they framed the debate right and said that they would make the world a marginally better place? We had a response ready for that, and we already told you how their world in itself would not become better. We had two things in this. First, we told you how people become unfamiliar with who they are because their personalities literally change, because IQs are dependent upon how people perceive individuals, how people process situations, and as a result, they become different individuals, and there will be no coping mechanism. Side of government had literally no response to that. Secondly, we told you how scientific development wouldn't happen. Why did we say that? Firstly, we told you how historically the most intelligent people with the highest IQs have made scientific progress, and as a result, when you don't have such individuals, it's very unlikely that you would have scientific progress. But moreover, we've already told you that we have made the most obvious inventions or discoveries. We are moving to the more advanced stages of discoveries, and as a result, we need people with high IQs to crack those problems, to crack those codes, so that we get to know the truth or get scientific development faster. To this, the response that GovWip had was, oh, people 200 years ago did not scientifically develop as fast as they did. They still lived, right? Yes, they had quite a shitty living standard. I don't know why we should live in that world where we can have a better world. But most importantly, the conclusion that you should derive out of this entire debate is equality in itself doesn't ensure a better outcome. An unequal world in itself can also be better, which we showed. That is, so just because they have an equal world in their best case doesn't mean that that world is better, right? That is something that we put. Then they said that then they have this, analysis. I did not earn my IQ. I should not be able to say what happened. That is to say, we did not consent to a lot of things. We did not consent to be born. We did not consent to be, have a hand or a leg. That doesn't give the state the right to take that away. But they back their claim up by saying that, oh, government taxes you. But taxation in itself is a controversial topic. There are a lot of people who think that taxation is not justified in the first place. You cannot use the example of something controversial to back that up. That in itself makes your claims controversial. You need to back up or justify taxation for it to be a proper analogy. Secondly, expect people will have more political capital. I also told you how that doesn't work, because 95% of the people have an IQ of between 85 to 115 with an average of being 100. That is, the outcomes would more or less would be the same. I don't know why that is a thing that we should strive for. But lastly, why do we win the debate? We win the debate because we take them at their best and take all the utilities down with the principle. We told you how IQ is an integral part of autonomy and choice, and you cannot take that away with that. Why did we tell you choice? What were the two reasons of choices being important? We told you choice is what essentially gives value to human beings. That the distinction between a dead body and a living person is that one can make a choice, one cannot. While the biological compositions are all the same, so the moral value is now the moral value trickles down to someone making a choice. Secondly, choices are personal and relate to you or happiness, and as a result, boil down to you having rights. Those are things that came from a DLO speech, and that in itself comes through the entirety of governance case, where take them at their best and take them down with a principle analysis. If you don't personally support slavery, if you think slavery was something unjustified, you can never ever give the ballot to side government with a good conscience. We are very proud to take the debate. We are very proud to take this championship home by a double-digit margin.
Thank you for that speech. To end the grand finals, can we have the government reply?
I am audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, I'll be starting in a few minutes, just in the chat. Okay. So starting in 3, 2, 1, go. First of all, responding to some of the new materials brought out by Opquick. There are many other factors which affect success. Why not remove them? Meaning, if you have 10 reasons that is significantly preventing you from success, and the government have proved you that you remove at least one of them, I don't know why that is a huge problem. We have to solve all the problems in the world in one debate. Secondly, they say that we lost the debate on principle because we didn't engage to the principle of human dignity and taking away the rights. Well, we have clearly engaged it on certain levels, showing that A, a state has the right, and the state's responsibility is to ensure the equitable and fair society. It is the right to take things that you arbitrarily own, that is affecting other people and making them disenfranchised. And we show you how the way that taxation works, and I'll show you that arbitrary things should be taken off. Then secondly, they try to talk, they didn't at all engage with our principle of arbitrariness and how they talk about consent, but did the people who were born with less intelligence consented on being less intelligent? I don't understand why that these people are not the most vulnerable people, that we are the vulnerable people in this debate that we are not protecting. We're saying you that these people are the one who's the more vulnerable when they were born with a less IQ, that didn't have the choice of having more IQ or less IQ in the very first place. So we protect these individuals, we protect their choice of consent, we balance the status quo by making sure that IQ is equally redistributed, right? They didn't engage this particular principle at all. They didn't say us why principle of fairness is less important than the principle of choice or principle of slavery at the very first place. Then they show us that, oh my God, also the point of human dignity was kind of new. The link back was new from the opposite way. And they say that we need, for urgent time, we need civilization growth and whatnot. I don't see why that's exclusive or why that's the most important thing is debate that should ruin them, right? What did it then engage furthermore? They didn't engage to our the number game. We showed you that how the greater number of people is affected in our world, and there's a huge possibility this greater number of people will actually overcome other barriers and succeed in our world, at least marginally better amount of success happening in their world. They didn't even show us in how in the status quo these people are living better off, or in the status quo these people can develop their situation. They didn't show us at all the people who are born with less intelligence and also in these factors. Secondly, we showed you that these are the most vulnerable people as they were born with some vulnerabilities, and just as we can, and so we believe that that wasn't also engaged. Then thirdly, they didn't show us what are the exclusive harms of taking away the IQ. Like they just showed that, oh my God, you can take it away, but what happens? Then the next second they came up and every individual will have some average IQ, right? Yes, that means that they can go on on their own. What's the exclusive problem that is happening in your world that we can't take away? We can't take away the IQ at the very first place. And then they say that that even if redistributing IQ won't have the same amount of effect. I'm not quite sure, because at the very first place they said that IQ is very important. So overall, the reason why they lose the debate is because that they actually undermined us, and we believe that if the principle of fairness isn't important, and the principle of an equitable world isn't important, in a world we have shown you in impact how we cater to the greater amount of people. I'm not quite sure what is actually the most important thing that could play a factor in this debate. We have shown you that how people could be more aware. It's not about a social movement. It's about knowing what you should do or what you should deserve, what you should fight for, and having the better incentive and knowing the right way to fight for. We showed you the success that will come. The glory of the success will be divided and enjoyed by all the people in our world. We've shown you that you won't have to think that your life was a charity. The successes the benefits you are reaping from life is a charity from other intellectual people. We showed you that you can solve your own problem, and that means that the glory and the success that this high intellectual people gets in our world is something that is also happen in our world. We make sure that everyone gets that particular amount of fame, money, and glory and whatnot. So for these reasons, we believe we win this debate.
Thank you for that speech. I'd like to thank all the speakers and both the teams for giving us this amazing grand finals. We'll be joining with you shortly in the closing ceremony for you to know the results of the grand finals, and the rest of the proceedings will be done in the closing ceremony. A huge thank you to everyone else who has also joined in from all parts of the country to watch us and watch this tournament's grand final. Thank you, everyone.